I have read the statement of the Attorney General as it pertains to the Prime Minister's political act of announcing the commencement of a system of free movement of persons from Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent into Barbados, with the promise of the grant of citizenship after 6 months of residency in Barbados. What the Attorney General has said is nothing more than a feeble, desperate, and embarrassed attempt to cover what must now be the Prime Minister's own embarrassment. We reiterate that the Prime Minister has absolutely no legal power to usher in a system that has no parliamentary approval. We reiterate also that the Minister of Immigration's trip to the airport last week, purportedly in supervision of this scheme, is nothing more than a farcical ministerial errand. We in the Democratic Labour Party absolutely reject the Attorney General's contention that the legal authority for this scheme already exists within the Immigration Act. This is a dangerously misleading legal error. We invite the learned Attorney General to identify any stipulation in the existing Immigration Act that validates this scheme. We must remind Barbadians that a scheme to enfranchise visitors with citizenship after only 6 months of residency so fundamentally alters the laws of Barbados that it cannot be done by prime ministerial announcement or ministerial discretion. We say that the Attorney General is now weaving a tangled web as the government attempts to extricate itself from a wild initiative that has offended the Constitution, the authority of the Parliament of Barbados, and the rule of law that limits the authority of the government and all public officials. It needs to be plainly said to the Prime Minister of Barbados that she cannot rule Barbados by arbitrary political edict. The Prime Minister's October 1st initiative is nothing more than an arbitrary, vainglorious, and reckless political act that deeply offends against constitutional rule, the authority of Parliament, and the rule of law. We remind the Prime Minister that contrary to what she said, there can be no transition phase prior to parliamentary legislation of this scheme. The Attorney General's erroneous legal opinion cannot be the antidote that cures the wrong that the Prime Minister committed last week. The statement of the Attorney General further deepens our concern that this government intends no obedience to the Constitution of Barbados. We remind the government that in recent times, there already has been the movement of labor into Barbados, except that it could only have been conducted in accordance with the limited conditions allowed by the existing laws. We in the Democratic Labour Party have, however, questioned the social and economic impact of that migration of labor to the detriment of the Barbadian labor market and to our society as a whole. Those are matters for which the Prime Minister and the Minister of Immigration must ultimately give account to the workers of Barbados. It is appalling that the Attorney General would concede that, and I quote, the Chief Parliamentary Council is finalizing a bill to be laid in Parliament this week, which will seek to codify the arrangements that have been put in place in order for Barbados to honor its agreements made with other sovereign regional states, unquote. In spite of his concession that the necessary law has not been passed, the learned Attorney General still seeks to validate an invalid scheme. What is more egregious is that the legislation is to be referred to a joint select committee for public involvement on the issue. Did not the Attorney General hear us say in our media conference that no other sovereign state can legislate for Barbados? Does not the Attorney General understand that any agreement with any other state does not become the law of Barbados until Parliament legislates it into local law? If the Attorney General understands this, he must now have the courage to give this good legal advice to an errant Prime Minister. This constrains us to conclude that this illegal administrative rush in contravention of the laws of Barbados has more to do with padding the voters' list in time for an election and less to do with the noble objectives of regional integration. We again extend legal advice to the various departments of government, including the Immigration Department, the Barbados Revenue Authority, and the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. that their paramount obedience is to the laws of Barbados, and that they must resist this illegal initiative of a renegade cabinet. It is embarrassingly ironic that all this is happening during a week in which the Parliament of Barbados is hosting the 68th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, that must now observe the descent of our democratic traditions into dictatorship. This is not a happy day for freedom, democracy, and justice in Barbados. Thank you very much.